Oblast with Don and Kevin is a show where we share opinions and interviews about topics that interest us. We generalize a lot, and we do realize that some of the topics we touch on, there are people on the fringes that are not part of the group we are generalizing. In order to spare the listeners having to hear us constantly caveat our conversations to recognize that there are other groups and opinions out there, this is our blanket statement stating just that. We know. Also, we are not on any side. We are not left, right, good, evil, up or down. The purpose of the show is to both provide entertainment and also to expose you to new ideas and opinions to cause you to think, research, and form your own opinions that you can share with others. Oblast with Don and Kevin. I'm Kevin, and we have Don.
That's me.
And special guest this week is everyone's favorite Jedi, Elliot. Elliot?
What's up, Elliot, or Jedi, if you're a longtime VGN listener? Here I am.
That's right. Well, I kind of expect like there would be some new people that would be like, what are they talking to a Jedi for or anything? Speaking of that, being a big Star Wars guy, what do you like The Mandalorian? Outside of this whole thing where they fired What's-Her-Face and who, I don't know. But do you like the show or do you not like the show?
Mandalorian I think is really good. I think overall it's really good. It's like, I mean, everybody's seen the show, right? You guys have all.
Donnie hasn't seen it, but
well, hold on.
Oh.
Before I came on, I had to pause it right here with 10 minutes left in episode 12, chapter 12, which is episode 4 of season 2. So I'm almost done.
Okay. Well, won't spoil it.
So you haven't had anybody major spoil it. Okay.
I read everything before I started watching it, so it didn't matter. I was reading stuff. Yeah. Okay. I just happened to get Disney Plus and was like, oh, now I can watch it.
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Okay, cool. So then you know about like the ending of the second season and bringing in Luke. Okay, yeah. So it's hard to talk about Mandalorian without talking about all the other new Star Wars stuff that's come out because like last time we talked, Star Wars was over for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Like Lucas was done. Episode 3 was done. I guess they may have had the Clone Wars cartoon going on, but so yeah. In light of like the latest trilogy, which left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, including mine. I think The Mandalorian was sort of like a way to fix that, but it wasn't done in like I felt like the last movie, episode 9, was kind of everybody got together and like, oh, we hate episode 8, we hate The Last Jedi, so we're just gonna like write everything down that everybody hated, and then we're just gonna do the exact opposite of that. And you know what? You guys like Palpatine, right? Yeah, we'll throw some Palpatine in there for good measure. Oh wait, he's Rey's grandpa. Okay, nobody worry about it. But this was like like Mandalorian felt pretty genuine, and it feels pretty genuine, and even like the stuff at the end with Luke. It was hard, man. I know you guys are too cool for the show and everything, but I got a little emotional there at the end, seeing Luke come out with the lightsaber.
It was good. I do spend a lot of time like just looking at it, being like, how are they doing that? Technologically. Like I'm just like because they didn't actually go and get him from the past or something. Like you got to come with us into the future and do this TV show.
Yeah, but you know what, dude? Like, maybe you feel the same way. Why? There's always something a little off about these digital characters, right? You can watch YouTube videos where people do those deep fakes, and it's like, dude, that looks perfect. And why is it like a $1 billion company like Disney, like they pull back the hood, and it's just like you're looking into like a guy with a glass eye or something like that. You're just like, what is he doing?
Yeah, it's a little creepy. Yeah, although he did look a lot better than the general in the movies.
Tarkin?
Tarkin. Yeah. He looked good, right? But like that, he looked even more like CGI to me. Like he just didn't look. He didn't look real.
Him and Leia looked like they had like an aura around her. It just looked like, you know what I mean? It was just like something. It was like you see them and you're like, oh, that's them, and it looks like them. But then it's just like it's like when you look at a Photoshop picture, you're just like, there's something. There's something that's not, it just didn't look right.
It's like Uncanny Valley or whatever.
It's like the actors don't really treat them like. I know that there's somebody there in like a green suit or something, just sort of standing in for them, and even the actors always just seem a little bit disassociated when they're talking to somebody like that. So it's all I don't know. And maybe one of these days, though, it's going to happen, and I'm sure it's going to be soon, and I'm going to be watching it, and then somebody later is going to be like, that was CGI, and I'm going to be like, what?
Really?
Nuh-uh. Like, why'd they do that? That guy's still alive.
Remember we were on the show VGN. They were doing they were reintroducing Tron, and that's when they started doing that whole thing with like Jeff Bridges and making him younger and everything. They're like, dude, that's weird. And now here we are a decade later, and they still haven't gotten it right.
I know it is, but it's also like they're doing a lot of things with like with Carrie Fisher and stuff, like with dead people now. So, it's really that's kind of I don't know what that means. Like, are we going to like see like another Star Wars with like young Harrison Ford and everything?
I know, right?
Just why not? Like, just put everybody in there, and just get some decent voice actors, and they might not even need to do that.
They're gonna start remaking all the old horror movies with like a CGI Bela Lugosi, and Lon Chaney, and stuff. You're like, I'm the man of 1,000 faces. It's like, you're on a computer. You're
right,
man.
That's funny.
Could do anything at this point. So anyway, Jedi, so tell us how you been?
What have I been up to for the last 15 years?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's crazy how long and old this show is. That like the show has been on, like it was on the air since 2004. We stopped doing it regularly somewhere around like 11 years later, and now we're like 6 years after that or something. And like it's just been that long. It's crazy. We've known of you for a long time, Jedi.
Yeah, ditto. Well, I just want to say you guys both sound the same. So for those that grew up with you being disembodied, voices, you sound as young as ever. Well, so what have I been up to? Well, yeah, dude, it's funny that you say you're just reflecting, and I was thinking about this. We were talking a little bit before we started recording, and you said we're not live, right?
Yeah, we are not live, right?
Okay, right. So like we were just chatting about how. I remember, I think it was the first or the second show that I listened to that I got off of iTunes. It was Brian pretty quickly talking about like, was it Asheron's Call or what was
probably
yeah.
Asheron's Call, yeah.
and then he started talking about World of Warcraft, and I was like, dude, that game is still going. That's when it first came out in 2004. Right. It's like, man, how long ago was that? And then you hear the Colin episodes, and it's like, oh, it's just Red, and he's like 12, and now I follow him on Instagram, dude. He's like going to be a professional musician or something, and Mr. Cow's like gallivanting around the world, like in his I don't know what he's like. I don't know, dude. It's crazy to see how everything has changed over the years. We've only met once in person, and that was that time. I said 2010. I think it was like 2011, 2012.
It was 10.
It was 10?
I believe so, yeah. Because I just came back from Columbus.
Oh, okay. Which time?
The last time.
That's the other thing, man. It's like we charted a major part of your life, Downey. Like,
yeah,
you had like
the entire marriage basically was
marriage,
on the show.
Kid, divorce, moved. I don't know how many times, and
then I started.
You bought a house and never put furniture in it. That's all I know. So.
I inherited furniture at one point, so it all worked out here. But yeah, no, I know we chronicled quite a few things on the show, and a lot of people's lives. That it's amazing, just in the sense of like this particular show, which is an offshoot of Video Game News Radio, is that I was telling Donnie, I said, I moved the RSS around, and we started posting new shows, and we can look at the statistics. And this show has about 1,800 downloads an episode.
What?
Yeah, and it hasn't been active for just about 6 years. And so it's amazing that even though sure a lot of those are probably not active people listening, they still have devices or something subscribed to our show and downloading the episodes. It's pretty amazing, really, to think of that. And we have, a fairly healthy Patreon response. We have like 30 Patreons already. Thanks, everybody, for joining the Patreon. It's at patreon.com/VGN. And that's amazing to me as well, because, it's nice that people come out and support the show. And we're going to have some... we're basically going to put our every other episode of this show on there just for patrons. So there's like a show every week, and then one show is for the public, and then one show is, it's still a full show, but it's just for patrons only, to help reward the people that are, helping to facilitate it. And another thing we're going to do, since I'm just talking about this, and it's kind of like show notes, we're going to bring back once a month Midwest Wasteland, and it's probably going to start sometime in June. It just depends on schedules. It's a little bit. I mean, Larry's practically dying all the time, going to the doctor, and Brian's driving his truck and constantly telling us about weird places he's going in Michigan or something. And I work 2 jobs, and Donnie, I don't know. He's just,
who knows what he's doing?
Yeah, it's always a bit of a mystery. What he's got.
What about Cease? What's Cease up to?
I talk to Cease every so often. I think he doesn't like I have invited him when we've done the group Midwest things and stuff, but and he seems like he's engaged with it. But I think when his wife heard his ex-wife heard the crazy ex-girlfriend episode, he got a lot of shit for that. And
that was my question.
So
there's that.
I think he's just gun shy about coming back on the show, kind of thing, because he doesn't just want more of it to get out there and be a problem for him. So,
speaking of that, I'm no longer allowed to mention, whose name, because he got really mad at me. His name ends with a bar. Yeah, Corbett.
Corbett. Yeah, he's fine. He gets grouchy or something. He's all right, I'm sure.
What? Tell him to shut up.
I wrote him. I apologized to him. I said, "Look, man, I didn't mean to drag all your stuff in through the mud. I was just trying to have fun." Freaking John, man, John Lower, one of the longtime fans of this. I didn't tag his name on purpose. I'm like, oh, you mean Corber? And then he's like, you mean Jason Corber? And tag blue, and then Corber comes out. He's like, oh, what are you doing bringing up all my stuff? I'm like, dude, I just thought it was funny. It was supposed to be between me and 2 guys.
We break his balls all the time. It's fine. That's what we do.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, he's what's he got? He got a bad leg. You just come after, just kick him. He just fall right down.
Got a gammy leg. Yeah, he's gonna come after me.
Bird bones like glass. Unbreakable,
Anyway, did I totally deviate from your initial question, which is what am I doing?
Yeah, what have you been doing? I mean, we all know. Tell us, you got married. What's going on? What happened? How did that happen anyway? Because at one point, I think you were online being like, "I'm never going to have a girlfriend ever in my life," and the next thing you know, you got married. So congratulations, by the way. It's been a long time, but
yeah, congratulations.
Thanks, Donnie. You said you apologized. Did you?
I apologize because it was 2011. You were right.
It was 2011. Okay.
Yes, it was 2011. I was mistaken.
Okay. Yeah. So that was the last time we saw each other. Well, that's the only time we saw each other. That just happened to perfectly line up with one of my really good friends' wedding that was going on. So did that? Yeah. Like you were saying before, it was a great trip. I have memories of watching whatever that pyramid show was, how are the pyramids built? And it's they start off with semi-rational explanations. You close your eyes and you wake up and they're like, and then, they beamed back the source of energy to the spaceships. And you're like, dude, what am I watching? So it was it's memories in the hotel, it was that. And you were giving me really, lengthy relationship advice because there was some girl there that was, oh dude. Yeah, dude, you had your eyes half closed. You're like, what you need to do is you just need to talk to her. You just need to ask her out. I don't know. You were giving me all this really,
that sounds like me. It sounds like what I would do, especially if I was drinking. Yeah.
I was going to say. I remember. I think in the middle of the night, I was texting you, being like, "Send me pictures of people."
Yeah, you were
chicks.
You were
because who's over there?
This one of my friends was pretty attractive, and so yeah, you wanted me to send you a picture. I think I did, which now I regret. But no,
I didn't do anything with it.
Okay. So let's fast forward. So 2011. Okay, so you probably heard that I left to Chicago then, right? I was trying to go to Bible college. For
you went to that Moody's Bible School,
I did, which was a total complete failure.
I think we lost VGN lost you sometime right before I think for a minute you had a job at PayPal or something, and then you kind of went to that lighting company, and I don't know if you're still there, but you that's where we lost track of you. So that era of your life.
Yeah, so essentially what happened, okay, so I can kind of get us to where we're at. So basically, after I came back from Chicago, I worked a few different jobs, just trying to get back on my feet. I started going back to school at ASU and racked up a whole bunch of student debt, which I'm almost actually done paying off. I'll be paid off, dude, by May.
That was the one where you took that class on Steven Spielberg's movies or something? Was that?
I did. I was like, this is the easiest credit ever. You literally go there and watch Jaws and be like, now tell me what you think.
That's the best class ever. Yeah,
I know. Well, it was supposed to be like a Lucas Spielberg class, but Lucas did 3 movies. So we watched Star Wars and American Graffiti, and we didn't even watch like THX or whatever. So it was mostly a Spielberg class. So yeah, we did that. I was trying to get back on my feet. I went through a rough period of time for a while for myself where I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And so I think I was on the show maybe a couple times during that period.
Yeah, I think
but I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really wasn't doing very well,
Sure.
mentally, spiritually, all that kind of stuff. So
that's perfect for our show.
Yeah, I know. I needed to go through. I think Kevin said those exact words. Something to the extent of like, the more miserable you are, the better it is for the show. No, you didn't quite say it.
No?
You guys had all these great, bad stories, and I was like, I need to hit rock bottom a couple times. So I did. No, long story short, I came back out, and I started. Well, really, what started changed for me, and the reason why I couldn't do the show anymore is because I started going to a different church, and the church started meeting like in the afternoon. So I could never be on the show because you guys recorded at like 7 or 5 o'clock.
8 in the evening.
Yeah, but it'd been like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so when I started going to the church Apologia, which I'm still going to right now, I would have loved to be on the show because you invited me a couple times, but I just started getting involved with that, and so because the reason why we met at night was because we had to share a building. We still share a building. We still rent a building, so I wasn't able to go to like a morning service like most people do. I'd go to an afternoon service, but that became my church. That's my home church. I think our church celebrated 11 years yesterday. I think
great.
So that means
perfect.
Yeah. So I've been there 9 years. So I've been serving pretty faithfully there in like a worship leader capacity. I sing and play music there. And the church is just like blown up.
Do they let you play?
Literally.
Do they let you play bass there, or are they like they don't let Jedi play bass?
No, I have to play the organ. No, I play guitar and sing. I would love to play bass. Like bass is kind of my forte, so to speak. It's what I'm best at. But it's really, I'm not like Geddy Lee or something like that. I can't get up there and start playing and sing at the same time. Play bass and sing at the same time. Not very good at it. So. But yeah, I love my church, man. It's been a huge blessing for me. But unfortunately, like VGN kind of took a back seat, and then it was just one of those things where
we're not really aligned with the same kind of thing. I mean, honestly, it's not good for your faith to be on VGN. Really, I don't think.
I was gonna say, I don't think we should even be in the same car.
It might be a good way to test yourself or something.
That's right.
Let's take the episodes to your church and be like, "This is what I did this week," and make everybody listen to it. They're like, "Oh my gosh."
Donnie, man, I was telling Kevin before we recorded, I was like, dude, I started talking to my wife before we got married when we were still dating, and we were like talking seriously about our future, and I brought up VGN. I was like, yeah, so there's this one time. Me telling this, she was like, yeah, there's this one time I was on this show. It's called Video Game News Radio, and yeah, I know it's just a bunch of blue collar guys. They're like super cool, but they're not Christian, and they'd like swear all the time and stuff like that, and she got like really serious, and she's like, well, did you ever repent? And I was like, no.
Did you ever make up for it? You'd be like, yeah, no, because they'll make fun of me.
Well, she was like ultra concerned about it, and I was like, no, like that was like 10 years ago, and it wasn't like I have anything I look back on. I'm like, oh yeah, I really regret.
I just like the idea of you repenting for being on VGN. That's amazing.
I figured you get a kick out of that. It just plays into all the stereotypes.
What you need to do is you need to video her. I know she's going to listen to this, so you need to like record her watching it so that we get the looks on her face. Like, what did they just say?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no! I was just saying. I have all those shows archived somewhere on some hard drive. So if she ever discovers it, it's like finding pictures of your ex-girlfriend or something. It's just disapprove.
I don't think anybody anywhere has to worry too much about finding VGN. It's impossible to find anymore.
That's true.
Yeah, but I would like you'd probably be in like some counseling thing for people. They'd be talking about all the the bad things they did in their life, and you'd be like, oh yeah, listen to this, and you press play. People all shocked. It's like,
2
that's
minutes
what
of
I was
Brian.
part of. So
Just guilty by association. Oh my goodness, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to say anything. I could just sit there, like you said, and just let Brian talk.
I think it was a good. I think it was good though, because you do represent a large number of people that have similar backgrounds. You know what I mean? Like, the three other people on the show are, three guys from Cleveland that are, very Generation X and cynical and everything, but you represented something else, which I think a lot of people did appreciate. So, no, I thought it was good that you were there, and I think you stuck. You know what I mean? You were never like, you guys were right. I went out with a bunch of hookers yesterday, and so like,
I was the measuring bar for how bad things were. It's like
I think you held it together really well. So
well, thanks, man. Yeah. I just want to let you know I have no regrets at all. Okay. I never regretted that VGN tattoo I got. It was good times. It's just So like, I know I've probably taken up most of the show already, but just as far as my life is concerned, I worked at PayPal for a little bit. This was still when I was like just turned 30. I think I just turned 30 2012 because I'm 38 now, if you can believe that. I think I was 24 when I started listening to the show. 23, something like that. And so I worked there for a while. I eventually got fired from PayPal because I missed too many days and because I was getting sick all the time. And so I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And so I was out of work for a little bit, and then I started working for this lighting company called Voss Lighting. I have a buddy. It's actually it's a family-owned company, but it's nationwide. So there's like a few of them. There's not like the closest one to you guys. I don't know how far you are from Nebraska, but I think that's probably the closest.
Yeah.
So,
there's just
we're not going there anytime soon.
Nebraska or maybe Minnesota.
Drive through it on our way west. Yeah.
So anyway, I started working there. I worked there in the warehouse for a little bit, for like 2 months, and then they made room in the front office. So I came in. I started working full time in the front office. I worked there for like 6 months, and then they opened up. They had a sales position because somebody quit. So I started doing sales, and then I worked there for almost 5 years.
Wow.
I left, and then I'll get to the whole part about my wife and everything and how we met. But I left. I left and worked for Yelp for 6 months.
Oh, really?
And then, and then I left Yelp and I went back to Voss, and now I'm at Voss again, and I'll probably look to leave there again too soon. So,
but only listen to the show then.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's listening. But yeah, man, that's been my work history. It's actually, for me, it's been the most stable work history I've had, as far as like, I've never been with a company that long. And
I'm curious,
for me,
really quick though. I'm sorry, but you do sales. Do you like sales?
Well, to be honest, man, yes and no. I don't think I'm not the prototypical salesperson. Like, when you think of a sales guy, you kind of have probably have a certain image in mind.
Somebody car salesman guy, flashing the
exactly, exactly. Yeah, that kind of like, swarmy smoozer. That just like, I sneak up to you. What are you buying? So you like open up my trench coat with a bunch of light bulbs. But so for me, I don't think I necessarily fit the bill. And in some ways it's a good thing, but in some ways it's a bad thing. And I think the way where it's a bad thing for me is I don't really have like salesmen are typically ultra competitive. They just like want to win no matter what. And I've realized for me, like, especially now that I'm married and I'm getting older, I just don't care as much about that. And so it's just a little easier for me to sort of settle in and want something a little bit more stable. Because as you probably know, sales is very sink or swim.
Right,
so,
for sure.
So it's
got
like,
great rewards, but it's got lots of no reward at all. So yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So it's like, thankfully I have a salary, but it's not much of a salary. So I never had to operate commission alone. But especially like when COVID hit, but even prior to that, you're kind of just like, now that I'm married, dude, and I have a house and want to have kids and all that stuff, it's just like, dude, I don't want to be like, I want to know what my income is for the most part every month, so I can better budget it.
Yeah,
exactly. But the whole salesman thing, like the part about helping people and being able to come alongside, like when you see a project through from beginning to end. You're like when you got the project, they went with you, they went through with your company, and you see it from beginning to end. It's super rewarding, even besides like monetarily. It's like very rewarding to see that happen when you were able to take care of somebody in that way, and they're happy and you're happy. But just like the constant grind of like, get out there and go see X number of people and, have people just, throw your card away right in front of you, which I've had a few times. I'm a pretty affable person, if I can say so, in
Sure.
a non-braggadocious way. But I tend to get along with most people of all types. And so it's just like when I run into somebody that is more off-putting that I don't get along with, it's really odd. You have those weird interactions. But I don't know. Honestly, man, what's kept me at the company so long is that I just really like the people. And believe it or not, it's actually a Christian-owned and operated company.
Nice.
So for me, it's comfortable in that sense where I can share my faith. I can talk with my coworkers who most of them are believers. And so I just have I really like that environment. But the truth of the matter is that there are other companies that can pay a lot better. And so it's sort of a trade-off. It's kind of like, well, do I want to leave a place where they're really gracious with you and they're great people, but I'm not making much, or I want to go work for some place that's maybe a bit more hard-nosed, and then what I want to do sales. Like, I don't think I'd want to do sales for the rest of my career.
Sure.
But I'm also like, man, I'm almost 40 now, dude. So it's like, I wish I was like somebody. This sounds weird, but I wish I was somewhat like you, Kevin, in the sense of like, you're, I mean this in a good way. You're kind of a nerdy dude, like you're a geeky guy, but you also get the minutia of what it takes. Like you like to do coding. You're like what I would classify as like a classical nerd. Like you're into that stuff.
Right. Nope, you're right. Absolutely.
I'm not like I don't like understand it. Like it would be a big time struggle for me to code.
Sure.
I'm not a tinkerer. I'm not like that kind of person that likes to mess with things. I'm a Mac guy, if that makes sense. I just want stuff to work.
Right.
But
have you ever thought about being? I know it's kind of a funny word, but an evangelist, and not a biblical one, but like a career one. It seems like you would be very good at that. Which is
so an
evangelist is it's almost like PR, but it's not quite. It's sort of like you learn what the business is, and all businesses have a sort of and listen, if you're an evangelist out there listening right now, don't write to me and tell me how it really. I'm generalizing. Okay, I'm sorry. But it's sort of like you learn what the business is about, and all businesses have a message that they're trying to spread. You know what I mean? Like there's a sort of an attitude that you're trying to put across, and it's a little bit different, and you're not selling so much as you're just sort of you're evangelizing the company. You're making the company look great, right? And it's like a mix of like PR is kind of doing something, marketing is kind of doing something, but the evangelist is sort of you understand the you're not coding or anything, but you understand your product enough so that you can go to a business and talk about the product and and the business behind it, but you're not selling. So you're not going to walk out of there hoping you get a deal or something. You're the guy that the other people bring in to talk about the company. And I just think that you're a social, nice guy. People would think you're genuine. And you would be able to convey, some trust and assurance about what you're saying. You'd be believable. And I think since you already have a sales background, you should look into it. It's just about every technical place has evangelists, and they're usually in fairly high demand because it is an unusual career path that not a lot of people follow.
That's interesting, and I didn't know that that's what they were called. I just kind of always thought of them as like, oh, they're the spokesperson, Right. They're the guys that go to the trade shows and they sit there at the booth and.
Right, kind of. I mean, that's more. Yeah, again, that's more PR. But close. Right. It's the guy that when it's those guys that get on stage. A lot of companies they'll just have their CEO come on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you get the guy that's actually going to come out and talk about the company. That your evangelist is going to do that. But it's a lot of most places aren't going on stage in front of people. I mean, most places you're going to go to a company and meet them and just throw your PowerPoint slide up. It's just like sales. You know what I mean? It's you're going to be trying to talk about the product and everything, but you're not the guy trying to get the sale. You're the guy that's just trying to instill some confidence that the company knows what they're doing, you know?
As long as I was just like allowed to leave and I never had to talk to them again, then I'd be fine.
Right, and it's pretty much what it is, because they're not going to call you. I mean, you know, they're going to call the sales guy and complain to him. So look into it anyway. I think you would be really good at it.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. And here's the thing, and I think this is I'm just guesstimating, but I think you have given me, in the course of the 15 years of me being on the show, 5 or 6 different career paths, and I should have taken all of them. and I didn't take your advice before, so now I am going to, and then I'm going to come back to you and tell you how successful I am now, because I finally listened to you.
Just look it up. That's all I'm saying. Like for somebody with your personality, and like you said, you're not trying to be a tinkerer, or you're not trying to code, which I bless you for that, because it's the worst thing ever to sit in a cubicle all day and code. There's just the Morlocks that we are as coders is not something I wish on anyone. And I know that people out there code that listen to this show, and I'm with you. I do the same, but you got to admit that it's not a glamorous life to sit in some cubicle somewhere and just stare at that screen all day. But you know, where you can get out, you're talking to people, you're shaking hands and stuff. But again, you're just, you know, as long as you got to work for a company too where you believe in the product, right? You go if you don't believe in the product, then what are you going to talk about? You know what I mean? You're going to be lying the entire time, basically. But I think if you believe in a product, then it's easy to do that job, because you're just telling the truth. You know, you're just telling them in a very confident way how it is, and you know, there's more to it than that. I mean, there's work that goes on in putting these presentations together, and you know, learning about the product and everything. But ultimately, it's not tied to sales, so you're not waiting for your meal ticket to come based on some guy's decision. You know what I mean? Sure. So sorry. Anyway,
no, that makes sense. And at the end, I'll slip in a little VGN plug. Let me tell you about this show.
Or they'll know you from that show. Sold me, but you were on that VGN show.
We can't have that around here.
We can't have that. Bad reputation.
You the guy that wanted to be a hair cutter? No,
that's what I was going to say. Is like, you didn't go to the haircutting school?
Nope. And you know, ever since then, dude, I will see places that they're labeled hair cutter. I always think of Donnie, or if it came up the day I was reading something, and it said epitome, and I thought epitome.
Epitome, yes.
Yeah, that was right to mind.
That's a great one.
Epitome. It was good because
he's got so much information in his head. He can't decipher between letters, you know, and symbols.
I never, like, you never
processes.
Put it together. The words are there, and you read
right,
them.
You're just reading it.
You just don't realize, you know, that it doesn't sound like you're reading it. And
if you were sitting there by yourself, you would have gone, the epitome. You would have had it.
I probably would have I don't know what that word is, epitome. What is that?
Yeah. Kevin's just like Neo at the end of the Matrix. Like, he could see everything, the letters on the screen. And he just stands there, he's like, epitome. You're one step beyond all of us. We've been saying it wrong this whole time.
So. I told my girlfriend that I was doing this show with Kevin, and she's like, so what's that going to be like? I go, well, it should be good, because Kevin and I, we get along really well, and we laugh a lot, and like I can make him laugh, and he always knows how to set me up so I can make good jokes and stuff, and I go, and he's like, really smart. And she goes, really? And I go, well, except for a couple words. And she's just like, what do you mean a couple words? And I was just like, well, it was just epitome. And she goes, you mean epitome? And I was like, yeah. That one.
That's great. Yeah.
But there was another one. I can't remember right now.
There's been a few, you know, when you're reading all these things people send in, and, you know, I used to read those news articles. Yep. When you do it a lot, you'll get caught with them too.
That's a good one.
Words. It is funny.
That's just a good memory one where I remember that because you said it. I just started laughing. I was like, what?
Epitome. Yeah, that's good. And there's so many funny things about those early shows. Like, I was just thinking, like, we came on here and I had my camera on, my webcam, and I'll never forget the first time you talked to Brian about the webcam. What, did we just stare at each other?
just sitting there in their underwear, looking at each other like, so what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing? I don't know.
couldn't
I want
even
to see if you sold out. You stayed true to your hardcore roots. You didn't even no webcams, bro.
Well, we had them at one point. We did them because we were trying to do some video to make it because people were kind of turning to video. But in recent times, I've kind of decided that like stick with what you know. And I think audio doesn't make money like video does, but we're not going to do video. You know what I mean? Although I am probably at some point I'm going to go through my entire console collection, which is over 200 now, and I'm going to do a video thing where it's like, does it work? And it's not going to be like a Tecmo and kind of thing where I'm talking about the history of the console. It's going to be me taking some console out of a box that's been sitting for like 50 years and plugging it in and just seeing if it just catches on fire or if it works or not, So that's going to
That was always one of my favorite games, going over to Kevin's place when he'd be like, look at this thing. And I'd be like, what is that? He'd be like, well, you got to rub some sticks together and that starts it.
Like there was like a Silent Hill game for the PSP, and I was like, well, I'm just going to get this because I never got through this one Silent Hill game. So, I ordered it, and I was like, well, now I got to go find my PSP. Because, remember the PSP didn't even take memory cards in the beginning? It took those little discs, like those UMDs.
Discs? Or UMDs, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, that's so bizarre now. You know what I mean? It's so big in a handheld. And so, but I went down and I found my PSP, and the batteries in both the charger that I had sitting there as well as the PSP had exploded. The original Sony batteries just expand and blow up. It's just like a problem with them. And so it still works, and because I was able to tear it out of there, but and order another battery. But yeah, that's the kind of thing you deal with old technology. You keep it too long, and it's kind of like when you had that PSU in your PC that like water came out of it or something.
Oh my gosh! Dude, don't even bring it up.
That was the craziest motherboard.
That was your recommendation. You were like, "Here, get this
PC build I've ever heard in my life." Or like,
I returned that PC 4 or 5 times before I realized what was going on. I opened it up. All I needed was dry the water off, and it'd work. Just a stupid liquid cooler pouring all over it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's just like those fly swatters. Dude, that's funny. Dude, so that's another thing, man. You also told me you told me this like 10 years ago. I was asking you, or I was talking to you probably about doing a podcast, and you were like, listen, here's what you need to do.
Here it
Just
is.
like that.
Yeah.
Start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Call it Elliot's Video Games. And all the money's going to be in YouTube. Just wait. And now look at us. Like, both of us could have been rich. You're doing this like your unboxing video. You could be a millionaire. You don't have to do coding. You don't have to be no evangelist. You just sit there, play video games, talk trash.
Some of that stuff's ridiculous. You're right. Those unboxing videos, like there's those guys that's what they do. They don't even necessarily know very much. They're just like, here, look, I got this today. I'm going to unwrap it for you all. And look at this. It turns on. Isn't that amazing? And
right?
Those guys are like probably millionaires or something from doing, because people are like, wow, that's amazing, and it's like, anybody could have done this, like, I know you need some cameras and everything, but I mean, really, there's no talent involved in that. I don't care what anybody says. That's ridiculous. And it works. People, I mean, look at that Cutie Pie guy, right? Like that guy, I know he's had all this controversy, right? But what is he like?
Did you just call him Cutie Pie?
Yeah, whatever his name is. Isn't it that?
Pewdie Pie.
What is it?
Huh? Cutie Pie, like Pew. Like
PewDiePie. You're right.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm old, man. I'm an old man.
Whatever. That's all right.
But that guy,
gonna hear that and go search Cutie Pie is gonna be a whole other thing.
Yeah, it'll be just like a epitome. But that guy's like super, like he's a millionaire. He doesn't really need to do the show anymore. He's rich out of his mind. And what did he do? He just sat and played video games on his computer, and people just watched him do it. It's amazing to me. Like, it's just amazing the money that's made off YouTube for things that are, I don't know. I don't know what the secret is.
Completely mundane, yeah.
Some people are really successful at it, and other people can do the exact same thing, and nobody's interested in with it.
Right.
When we get to my show, when we get to talk about my show, that'll be a
yeah. Well, go on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Yeah, tell us more about the show.
Oh no, that's cool. Did you want to hear about my wife? I don't know.
Well, I'm curious how you met her. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, we got to do that whole thing.
Sorry, I'm the one who keeps taking us back to old
Did you
times
buy
'cause I
her
haven't
from
talked to you.
Russia or something?
Yeah.
She speaks English, right?
Yeah. Jeez Louise. I was trying to think of one of your other friends. Who was that one friend that you had that was always getting in fights and then he got saved or he became a Christian? It's not Blackie, but it's something like that. He was on the show a couple times. You know what I'm talking about? He would like always get in fights. He was a former military guy.
Oh, Huska.
No, Huska
no.
wasn't on the show.
No, he was never. Yeah, he never
Is
got
it
into
Bill?
fights.
Bill or
Oh,
something?
Bailey.
Oh,
Bailey.
yeah, Bailey. Yeah, for
Bailey.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
About
that's exactly right. Yeah. Not
Bailey
the same.
and-
Not the same story though. Not the same story
No.
as you.
No.
Okay, so yeah, so I started working for this company, and then I was like, well, I'm getting older. You know, I'm getting in my 30s. I want to settle down. Want to find a wife. So I dated a few people to no avail whatsoever. But so this is the thing. As Facebook has grown, they've got all these groups now, and they had a group for Christian singles.
Oh,
And
good.
yeah, and now I was like on all the dating sites that you could find. I was like
eHarmony
eHarmony,
and Match and all that sort of stuff.
all of that stuff, dude. I tried all of them. I always like waited around for the deals. It was like
Sure.
4 months for one. I'm like, maybe somebody will love me. So I tried to do all that.
Yeah,
And
women
at
get
some
on
point-
for free basically, or they pay very little. You know what I mean on those things, and they're just like
Yeah.
they treat it so nonchalantly, and guys have to like give up a paycheck basically to be on those things and respond to ads. They have no idea that the amount of money that guys have to throw down on those dumb things. But
Dude,
yeah,
isn't that a microcosm of life? Girl just has to look.
it is.
Have one picture, and then the guys are like, "I'll spend everything I can just to get your number." so it's like, yeah. So like eHarmony, Christian Mingle, that was another one. That was something I was on. By the way, I think out of all those sites, if anybody's listening, I think eHarmony was probably the best one. Like Match.com was like a total. You pay like the $30 or whatever. It was the most expensive, but it was like buying an EA game or something, because you had to like pay money for the DLC to unlock the actual features of it.
right.
They were like, "Oh yeah, well now if you want to message her, here's another $10 a month." You're like, "Well, what am I going to do? Just
Yeah,
look at her?"
I've been on there. That's the one where they're like, if you'd like them to respond to you without paying, now sign up for this. And you're like, you kind of would like that to happen. Yes, you could have told me that in the beginning.
Because then they're just sitting there with all those like unread messages. You can't unlock them. Like, oh my goodness. But so anyway, dude, yeah, I could go on a whole thing about that. I started going on this thing on this Christian site, and talking to whomever, and met a couple nice girls. But then my future wife Hannah got on there, and the way they did it was like a pretty close knit group. And so if they had somebody come on, like if I brought you on, if you came on the site or something, Kevin and I would be like, introduce you. Like, here's my buddy Kevin. He's a cool dude, get to know him, post your picture or whatever. And that's kind of, so somebody did that for Hannah, my wife. And I was just like, oh, she's cute. I sent her a friend request and she accepted it, which thanks to Facebook memories, I found out that was 5 years ago, a couple days ago.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. Kind of neat.
Come on.
But
So
I
did
never,
you really did you print her picture out and like circle it and tape it to your wall? And like, this is the one.
Do you have a secret room with black and white photos
Maybe.
from a distance?
But you're
Just
string connecting the dots. Yeah. So the funny thing is, man, it's like I don't remember that part of it at all. Like I don't remember accepting her friend or like sending her a friend request or any of that, because at the time I was just kind of like getting to know a bunch of people, so she was kind of just another face.
Sure.
And but then like later on, like a couple years later, when I was single, because I had dated a couple times in between, and I think her pictures would pop up on my Facebook, and it would just say something. It would just catch my attention, whether it was like, oh, here's like a Bible verse, or here's like, she just seemed really sweet. Like I'm like, that seems like a really cool girl, like somebody that I'd really like to. That I think, like in my mind, I was like, I bet you if we ever had a chance to have a conversation, we'd really get along well. That was what was going on in my mind. But then you're like pretty much a total stranger, so like how do you really introduce yourself?
For
to
sure, that's
like
the hardest thing of the whole thing is like when you're you have no idea how that person is or what they're going to take to anything you're saying to them, or you might be trying to be funny and they might get totally offended by something you said.
I get that a lot.
It's the worst. Yeah, dealing with strangers, it's so difficult. And then you
was
have to
crazy.
try to find common ground. At least you guys had your faith to talk about, I guess. I mean, I don't know if
Right.
that's what you did, but at least you have that, because like if you don't have anything in common, you're just kind of like just staring at them across the table at drinking coffee, like, I don't know what to say to this person. Like,
Right.
so awkward.
Dude, I had gone on several dates. So, oh yeah, this is the other thing, right? It's like I had gotten past the point of like I'm only going to be. I'd widened my search area for like anywhere on Earth. I will talk I will talk to anybody at this point. You kind of start off 5-10 miles, and then you're just like, just somebody, please.
You're getting somebody from like the Philippines and stuff. Do you speak English? I don't even know. It might not matter. It might not matter.
There were a couple of people that were in other countries, but nobody that didn't speak English, at least not that I know of. Dude, now, like, okay, this is another sidestep, but now I'm like totally hooked on that 90 Day Fiance show. And so now my relationship doesn't seem so bad compared to some of those. But going backwards, so I messaged her and I don't even remember what I said. I was just like, oh, such and such, I noticed you did this. I wrote, this is what I noticed, man. Like I wrote ha ha after almost every sentence that I had. I was like, hello, ha ha. It was like that. It was like that level of like cringe. So I was just overly peppering my language with like, hey, I'm friendly. I'm not a weirdo. And, and I tried to friend her on Instagram because she was on, for whatever reason, I can't remember if I searched for her or if she just popped up after Facebook, Instagram, or whatnot. But I tried to friend her on Instagram. She kept denying me. I'll tell you why later, but I was like, oh, this isn't going very well. So she did message me back though eventually, because she's kind, thankfully. And we had like a couple real brief conversations, real brief messages. And then she was like, I'm just, I just came out of a relationship. I'm not really looking for, anything right now. And of course, I just totally lied to her. I'm like, oh yeah, me neither. I just want to get to know you. I just want to be
just gonna say hi.
Yeah, hey, just think you're cool.
You're like standing in front of her door, like on the
outside of her house, looking at her through the window.
I better leave. This is awkward.
Like, yeah, it's no problem. I just drove all this way, but I mean,
yeah, I have to delete. I'm like right in the middle of writing the message. Look out your window. This sentence isn't going to go so well.
Like,
Yeah. Were you going to say something? No.
like, that song "Come to My Window"?
Yeah. Oh man. So she totally rejected me for the first time, but I never forgot about her. Like she always kind of stayed in my mind, and I was kind of like, I think I started dating somebody else for a little bit, and then like I noticed that she was in a relationship because her relationship status changed, and I just kind of totally stopped messaging her at all. I was just like, oh, she's in a relationship, and so
yeah, sure,
I'll move on.
Right.
But then like
that too. Just leave them alone if they're in a relationship.
exactly, I'm not going to be like, who's this guy? I thought we had something. No, so she. I know I'm making a long story short here, but I like a year later, like on my birthday, I think this was 2018, if I'm correct. A year later, she wrote on one of my pictures, like I was celebrating my birthday at my parents' house, and we had cake or something like that. And she wrote, "Happy birthday, eat a lot of cake." And I was like, oh, I haven't heard from her in a while. So I messaged her and I was like, oh, thanks for the happy birthday wish. And we did eat a bunch of cake, and I sent her a picture of what the cake was, because it was a chocolate cake that somebody had made for me that had Yoda and like a little Dagobah theme, like somebody had weaved in these little. It was really cool. The gal who made it for me did a great job. And then I checked her Facebook, and I know she was out of the relationship. So we just started. Sorry about my cough. You can edit that out in post. So we just started chatting, and like you said, man, we had a lot in common. Like not only like the same faith, but the same denomination of faith, which
great.
Was also really important for me, because me, man, Mr. Calvinist over here. Not everybody likes that kind of person. So so we had that in common, and found out that she's like actually a pastor's daughter, and everything just kind of went really quickly. Like, because I was at the point right where I was like, I was over my. It took me a long time to get over this for a lot of reasons, but I was over my insecurity of, oh well, if this person doesn't like me, then that means I'm worthless and I'll never find anybody. I got over the Larry Mack stage, for a little bit later, or through that period. So I was just sort of like,
right.
I was sorry, Larry, I love you, dude. So I was just kind of like, well, I'm old enough now to where I know I want to get married. I don't want to waste a bunch of time. I don't want to get to that point where we're like talking for 6 months and then I let her know that I like her and she's already basically just thought of me as her friend.
Sure.
You know, I'm done with that. So I just told her, I said, look, like the reason I'm talking to you is because I'm interested in you and I want to get to know you better. And now our whole relationship just kind of went down that road. So she's a few years younger than me. She was 29 and I was 36 when we started talking. And we both wanted to be married as far as like in general. And then we were just like on that timeline. She's from Michigan. So she's from Grand Rapids.
Oh, wow.
And so I flew out there and met her at like this kind of singles event that her church was putting on.
You could have like met her and had my brother stop by. No, I'm just kidding.
Is he in Michigan now?
Well, he just drives up there all the time, you know. So.
Yeah. This is my internet buddy, Brian.
Hey.
He does a lot of weird things. My first time meeting him too, so it's not awkward. So anyway, I flew out there. I ended up staying a few days, and we just hit it off really well. And both were kind of on the fast track to wanting to get married. And so basically, from that summer, which was July 7th on my birthday, from then to February when I went to visit her, we kind of were like at the point where we knew we were on track to like wanting to get married soon. And so I proposed to her April 2nd and she was out here in Arizona. And then we got married July 6th, the day before my birthday. And that was a year and a half ago. And she moved out here and she's an awesome woman and marriage is a lot of work. But yeah, man, I'm super happy, dude. It was worth the wait. So there's my love story for you.
That's awesome. I'm really happy for you, man. I'm glad it's all worked out.
Thanks. I think I invited you to my wedding, didn't I? Even though I knew.
I would have sent you a gift or something if you had. Haha. No.
You get nothing and like it.
Right. So because we're 50 minutes in, but I want to give you the opportunity to pitch your show. So tell people about your podcast.
Yeah. So last year I started. Well, okay. I've been trying to do a podcast for a while now, and we've had a lot of like start and stops. So I did a podcast, maybe 20 shows. That's just podcast format. That if you look, maybe it's on iTunes. If you look for Coin A Geek, it's COIN, the letter A, then Geek. If you look for that, you might be able to find those old shows. But long story short, the guy that I was doing the show with was going to my church and he left, and that kind of made it harder for us to do the show together. So I started doing my own stuff. And I basically ever since COVID started, and I was at home a lot more, I was like, I'm going to do what everybody else is doing. I'm going to start, streaming, and I'm going to do this and finally like do something with like my hobby, because I'm obviously a gamer and have some experience doing editing and podcasting. So Coin A Geek is essentially it's a family friendly show. I'll be honest, man. Like if you guys come to the YouTube channel, which that's probably the best way to find the content. If you want to find the videos, is to go to our YouTube channel at Coin A Geek, or you can find me streaming on Twitch, which is also under Coin A Geek Gaming. So you can search for that. And I stream twice a week, usually this time on Mondays and then Saturday mornings around 10. But I've been kind of like trying to figure out my own what I'm doing, to be honest. Like,
I get it.
It's like there's so many different kinds of content that people can make, and it's like I like a lot of different things, and that can be good to be varied. But what I'm realizing is I really need to focus in on my niche and figure out what it is that I want to do if I want to grow. And then like I need to have something that I'm known for, and then I can kind of do those other things. It's like, oh, well, I like this streamer, so I should just talk about daily gaming news. But right now there's like 1 billion people. It's like, why would anybody go to my channel to do like a weekly recap unless they knew about it? But I've just kind of looked at this time as being like, this is just a time for me to get experience. And now I'm getting video editing, into video editing, which I love, which will be no surprise to you, Kevin, because I love editing in general. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm learning how to do video editing. And so I don't know what else to say about it, except that my goal is to try to make at least 2 videos a month and to stream 2 to 3 times a week. But one thing I've been doing more, and Kevin, you're gonna come on, I think this Wednesday, right?
Sure.
The plan. Okay.
No,
I think,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, unless you're like, dude, maybe not. I gotta take the dog to the doctor.
The wife says I can't talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, does that work okay with her? I mean, because you've listened to this show when Donnie was married, and it was more like I'll go clean out the barn after I'm done. So like
that's funny, dude.
If he starts getting connected, then you know he's in my situation.
That's right.
If you start going like Jedi, are you there?
Donnie's gone. He's gone.
Yeah.
That's right. There was like a 2-year period where we couldn't get through a whole show with you.
The best was when you just had dial-up internet and you were just like, I installed Star Wars Galaxies, and it says the patch is going to take 24 hours to download.
I was downloading the game, and it literally said, I took a picture of it. It literally said infinity. As it said, time remaining, infinity. I was just like, what? Like, I can never download this game? Ever?
They would make new patches before you finish downloading it the first time.
Exactly. Finally done after like a week and a half. Now downloading patched. Oh my gosh. Yeah, my wife's cool with it. I've explained it to her in terms of like, hey, like she's still getting used to like what it means to be married to a gamer. I think she didn't really understand.
Sure.
Like, like a gamer doesn't just play a game for a half an hour and turn it off. I'm just like,
right.
I'm like, babe, no, you don't understand that. Like, I'm going to play this until I beat it. And then, and if that takes me, 2 hours, great. If not, I'm going to sit here until I beat this boss. It's that kind of mentality. And, I have to be, now that I'm a husband and everything, it's good for me to have other priorities. So I'm not just,
for sure.
sitting in my little game room here and doing things. But no, she knows that, when it comes to these things, like I'm trying to build something, and even if I walk away from this, I'm sure it's probably the same for you in some regards, Kevin. It's like you even though you have a small audience, you have a loyal audience, but it's just fun to do, and it's like a creative outlet. And if you ever do stop doing it someday, you have something to look back on, and you say it's like recording an album, like, right, Donnie? Like, I'm sure there's some turnbuckle, tapes somewhere, but it's like I did this thing and I created it, and I'm proud of that, and I take that experience and move it to whatever else. So right now, it's just like I'm just trying to continue to experiment, and obviously being game focused or anything nerdy focused. Like last week, I actually had a couple comic book creators on that were Christian comic book creators, which I never had really had them on for an interview. So they're doing like, and they're two guys that have worked in the industry before, and they're doing children's comics. So right now, one of them is called The Chronicles of Faith, and it's going to be based upon the story of David, like King David. So something that, anybody's probably heard of, David and Goliath, right? So it's like easy for anybody to pick up. And then you have a moral. Give me just a second here. I've literally had like bronchitis for a month. It's bad. So I'm still, I'm finding out, with all that being said, I'm finding out that I really enjoy doing interviews. And so whether or not that will be the primary format of the show, I don't know, but it'll definitely be a chunk of the component. So I want to continue to have people on like yourself, and if Donnie wants to come on to a point. And
interviews are touch and go. Like, they can be very entertaining, but it really depends on your guest, because some guests can be like, just they don't know how to talk. I don't know if you remember that one time we had that one newspaper guy on the show.
Oh yes, I do.
Yeah, and. That is hard. Like, it's just, you're trying to be polite, but they're just not. They're not good audio. It's really what it is. And I get it though. It can be fun. Doing a show with one or two people is a lot easier, like we're doing now with Don and I, than it is when you have four. Because it's also like you're going into the show prepared to do a show with four people, and then somebody cancels last minute, and it just irritated me, and I would not have a good time, because I get it, like people have other issues, but it's just like it would happen all the time, and it was one of the reasons why I got kind of burned out on doing VGN. And we'd get into arguments sometimes offline about stuff, and it was just like, maybe I cared a little bit more about it than everybody else, but it was just one of those things where I think most people did, like everybody on the crew did the best they could, and that they wanted. Like, no one has to do the show. Nobody got paid, so everybody came on the show and and did it, but it's just kind of like it's hard to orchestrate all that and get it all, to a time where people like to be there, and then get all the everybody sounding right and getting it all working right, and then it just it could be frustrating. But
can't stick 4 monkeys in the same cage.
It's hard, right? Yeah.
Well, and to your point, I think that's one of the reasons why this last year has been kind of I would just kind of call this like my rookie year of figuring things out. Like as I've watched other YouTubers, it's pretty rare that people just kind of come out of the gate and just kind of have a massive audience, or typically sometimes when that happens is people, they just somehow they have the money to just like, I'm just going to buy a $4,000 camera and all these lights and setup. And I'm like, dude, I'm not spending any money on this,
right.
Like as the least amount of money I can spend on it and then like work on my craft, because it's because of what you said there. But what I was getting at was that with my other co-host that I had, he went through a lot of, I was just call it life changes. And for me, and we've talked about this, he and I have. So, but for me, it basically became to a situation where I was like, I'm not going to ever get anything done if I'm relying upon him. So I just got to do it. I'm going to do it myself, Yep. And the interview portion of it kind of has just come along more organically, and being like, oh well, hey, I actually know a lot of people when I sit down and think about it, and I could probably fill a show every week. But if not, like I'm getting better at my own stuff. Like I can make a 10-minute video on, what do I think about Gina Carano being fired? And I can, I'm getting to the point where I'm getting efficient at that.
Yeah.
So, and that's my goal right now. Is like, I want to get efficient so that I can crank out videos more rapidly. So I don't know what that tells me.
On video on Wednesday. I better shave and shit.
Yeah, I
haven't had a haircut in a few months though, so I'm going to look crazy.
You should be wearing a big woolen hat,
sunglasses, and like a scarf over my face, like a COVID thing.
You're not doing any crazy diets, are you? You're not like growing talons or something.
No. I mean, I'm almost 50. If anybody's expecting me to look like I'm 20, then they're going to be crazy.
He's going to be dressed like the Invisible Man.
Right? Just a pair of shades and a hat.
It won't move because it won't really be me. It'll just be like a dummy sitting there, and I'll be like on the side of the camera going, "That's right, yeah."
Don't look at me. Yeah.
So we're an hour in, and we usually wrap it an hour. But I did want to talk to you really quick about. So you got PlayStation 5, right? Like I saw somebody gave that to you or something. Did you ever figure out who gave that to you?
No, I never did. I'm sorry that we're going long.
No. We've gone long before, but I just want to move it along.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So the situation with the PS5 was that I, like everybody else that wanted one, was sitting at their computer at midnight, because for those of people that don't know, maybe you couldn't physically go into a store because of the pandemic, right? Sony basically said the only way to get this is to get it online. So I sat here at this very computer, and I actually had a buddy of mine, and we were on, and we were streaming, and we were like, yeah, we're going to try to get a PS5. I had like 6 tabs open for every single outlet I could think of, even like the random ones. Like I was on B&H Photo or some other, and I was like, but just like what happened to everybody else, as soon as they went live, you clicked on it and it was like, nope, it's not there. And
all those scalpers.
Jeez, dude, like that's a whole show in and of itself. Like freaking talk those bots and everybody else. But so for the next day or two, I paid attention to the deals that were going on. Like I on Twitter, IGN deals, and then there was another person, Wario64. They always tweet whatever deals are going on. So I was paying attention to those to try to get in line to be able to buy, a PS5, because like Sony and Walmart, like Walmart was the worst, dude, the absolute worst. I think I had like 4 or 5 times where I had, like I was on there, had the dang thing in my cart. It was in my cart, and I went to hit checkout, and it's like, this item's no longer available.
Yeah,
like,
that's the worst, right? When it's in your cart, it should be taken out of inventory. I mean, like it shouldn't sit there forever. You should be given a time limit, but you know what I mean? Like if you get it in your cart, because a lot of places do that. You have it in your cart, and then they're like, oh, it's gone.
Right?
No, it's not. It was right there.
Right. It's like, so you're like, imagine if you were in the store and it's in your cart, and then some guy just runs up and grabs it out of your cart and runs off with it. You're like, what?
This is not yours.
That's mine.
Amazing.
No, that's true. So, but go on. Somebody, yeah.
Yeah. So one day, I was still looking for it, and eventually I was just like, I'm just going to give up on this, and I'll get it when I get it, kind of thing. And my wife asked me, she's like, "Oh, are you still trying to get the PS5?" I'm like, "No, not really. I'm just kind of checking it out, whatever." So she leaves to go to Walmart, which is down the street from us, and I'm just sitting here doing whatever. And she came back and she's like, "Hey, can you come out here real quick?" So then I come out, and then she's holding it, and then she's got the PS5 in her hand with a controller, and like, I don't know, dude, my jaw dropped, like legitimately. She's got it. I don't know if I ever posted the video or if you saw the video, but she recorded it, and it was just like, I don't know. This is pretty lame to say this, and tells you how boring my life has been, but it's probably one of the top moments of my adult life.
I understand it. Right? Yeah, you got totally surprised. That's amazing.
Oh, it legitimately shocked. That was the very last thing in the world that I thought she had. Like, I didn't even know.
She's like, "Can you mow the lawn? Can you just do, not that you have lawns in Arizona, I guess. Can you rake the sand?"
It's exactly right, dude. I got rocks in my front yard.
She's like, I'm going to give you this, but don't ask me how I got this. And then, like, meanwhile, there's some dude around the corner all beat up.
Yeah, she was the person that ran by and grabbed it out of the car.
Now, I'm curious though. Do you have any clues who it is? Like, was it a listener of your show,
it was her.
Or was it her? Was it her that gave it to you?
So no. So that's the common misunderstanding, is that people think that she bought it, but she didn't buy it. She was just the facilitator of it. So essentially, what happened is somebody contacted her and let them know that they had gotten that for me, and so I think what happened is that they just ordered it and had it sitting at the Walmart nearby, and she went and picked it up and on their behalf to give to me. But so I asked her, I said, "So, like, what was it?" She's like, "I'm not telling you." So she still hasn't told me. I still have no real idea. But all she told me was just like, "Your quote unquote online fans got together, like pooled together and got this for you." So, even my little small 50-person subscriber YouTube channel, apparently there's enough fans out there or people that cared.
I think it was All Show Dave probably did it.
Probably.
Sounds like something he would have done, and
right.
And he'll never tell you. And it's also great to know that your wife can keep a secret, which is awesome because
well,
not
yeah.
At least from you. At least you can keep a secret. No, that's nothing.
Listen, I'm sorry. Listen. I go by all the old VGN stories, and you're not like that. That's not you.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I keep comparing like me and Brian and Larry, and like, no. It's not the same. It's not the same.
So I'm curious though. Now about the PlayStation 5 though. Look, I have one. I have the Xbox Series X, and I have the S.
Of course.
Right. And I have some opinions that I'm might going to share on a future show about how dumb I think the S is. My biggest.
Did you say you have an X and an S, or just
yeah? I bought the S because I am a collector of consoles, and it's significantly different than the X, and I wanted to add it to the collection. Like, I wouldn't buy the PlayStation disc, which I have, and the digital, because the difference is only a disc drive. But here we have a serious performance difference between X and S, and I don't think the S is going to be a success. It's another one of those weird Microsoft, whoops, we included Kinect with the Xbox One and nobody wants it kind of thing. And I think this is going to be I think this console's probably going to be a failure, although I have some theories about it as well. But the thing that I honestly haven't played the PlayStation 5 much yet because I only got one game for it, which is so far. I mean, I can go buy more games, but the only one I was interested in was the Spider-Man, right? So I got the Spider-Man for it. But it's even worse on the Xbox Series X because while I do have some X games, like when I started to use it, I realized that these are just like HDR 4K versions of Xbox One games, right? Like I don't feel like I know that there's a lot of power in these consoles, but I feel like this is one of the worst launches because what they're trying to pass off is like being better. It's almost like I can see a little of this ray tracing stuff, but I mean it's so like you have not changed my game that significantly to justify this $500. So it's like I'm interested in your thoughts on it.
Well, yeah. So to speak to the PlayStation 5, so I've always been a Sony guy. So I only owned one Xbox item. I had the 360. So it's hard for me to compare.
Sure. Well, you don't have to. I'm just in your experience, like versus PlayStation 4. Like, how much better do you think the 5 is with the library that, like, the 4 games that you can play on it that are 5 only?
Sure. Yeah. Well, to be honest, man, the biggest thing, I think it's one of those things that if I didn't have a PS5 right now, I probably would be okay waiting a little bit in terms of waiting for some more games to come out, because as you said, there aren't that many games that are calling my name, so to speak.
Right.
But now that I have one,
yeah, it's
really hard to go backwards. And for me, like, the biggest part of it really is like some of the quality of life stuff, meaning the fact that that's basically it's backwards compatible with pretty much every game that matters. And you can hook up the external hard drive. I've got all my PS4 games, essentially, all my digital ones back.
Did you have a PlayStation? Was it PlayStation Pro?
Yes.
You did, yeah. Is it like with Microsoft? This is one of the things I was going to talk about. But with Microsoft, what they did, right, is you got the Xbox One X, right? And the Xbox One X does 4K and it does HDR. And there were a lot of games that took advantage of that, right? Like, because, if you're a developer, why not, fine tune it to work with better frame rate and all that kind of stuff, and add some graphical stuff. Well, with the backwards compatibility, they ignored the Xbox One X. So the backwards compatibility in the Series X and the Series S are targeting the original Xbox and ignoring all of the improvements that went into the Xbox One X. And I'm just curious if that's I don't know if you know, but if that's the same thing that Sony's doing, like, are they just doing backwards compatibility with PlayStation 4 or 4, but ignoring the Pro? And I'm not sure. I just don't know.
No, I don't think so. And I think the one reason I can point to that is because, like, I've got, let's say, Rise of the Tomb Raider, for instance, is a PS4 game. But when you download it on there, you still have the option to switch between, like, a performance and a graphic mode. Oh,
great.
So, which is like, you would only have that option if you had a PS4 Pro, right?
Right.
So all the games that have the HDR option are still available as well. So yeah, it is acting as though you have a Pro as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Microsoft is doing a little bit of a bait and switch here. They immediately canceled the One X, and then they have all these games that are, like, enhanced for X and S, and it's like, probably enhanced for 1X, but you're just sort of ignoring that console even existed, and now targeting this other console. But it makes me also think that, like, certain games, like A Plague Tale, I don't know if you ever played that. That game looks really good on the Xbox One X, and it also looks good on the Series. But it is not designed for Xbox One XS, right? So it's sort of like
they got to get better with these names.
They do,
and stumble around.
And the Series
One X, 1, 4.
Well, it's like the Series S is like the new one. It's the low cost new one, right? But it's the new one, and it can't play. Well, it'll upscale, but it can't actually play the graphics at 4K, right? Because it's designed to play games at 1080, or they say the target is 14.4, but it's not going to be that high. Every game is apparently 1080, right? So it plays A Plague Tale at 1080 in backwards compatibility mode, where if you play it on the Xbox One S, you're playing it in 4K. And so it's like, that's not an improvement, right? Like that. Yeah,
I get what you're saying now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you bought something for a lesser experience. And so that's now, of course, the XS, or I mean the Series X, it's going to handle everything, and I think everybody should buy that one. I just think the S is weird, and I have some theories about it. I mentioned them on Patreon, but I'll talk about them on a future show.
Oh man, you should have me on that one. Yeah, so I mean, if like my overall impression, dude, is I really like the PS5 overall. It's not without its problems. It's definitely got like those crashing problems that can happen. You probably have had that where it's like if you put it into rest mode and then you come back and all of a sudden it's like has to totally reboot the system.
I get that sometimes with any of my consoles, so I understand.
Yeah, exactly. So, but so the games I'm looking at my shelf right now, I own I own like an NBA 2K because every year.
Oh no!
I need to stop.
They're like the best NBA games, basically.
I need to stop buying sports games though because I immediately get frustrated with them when you're like 7 feet tall and you're like just dunk the ball and he like does a backwards behind the back crazy shot because you have to use the analog stick now.
Right.
Anyway, I've got that, and then I've got the most impressive graphic game to me is probably Demon Souls.
Oh sure.
And
and
I've never been a Souls guy here, but here's. What's that?
I haven't either. I mean, it's just those games I can't handle being killed all the time like that.
Yeah. But that game is ridiculously good looking. And if you, especially if you play it on the performance mode, because that's another thing I'm realizing is that this is getting into the weeds a little bit for the non-technical maybe, but I really don't like playing games at 30 frames per second anymore, especially if they require like any kind of fast twitch motion.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Dark Souls. Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what I mean, where it's like some things like that I may not have noticed when all I had was one option.
Right.
But now that I have it, I'm like, dude, how could I have gone so long with that? Especially like the quick loading times, like the SSD and the PS4 for certain games loads. Like you've played it. You played that Spider-Man, and it's like a second, to travel and to load, and I think the haptic feedback on the controller feels amazing. Like that Astrobot Playroom thing was actually way more fun than I thought it would be. But so yeah, man. Overall, I mean, obviously, I didn't purchase it, so I got to be happy either way. But the thing is massive, though, dude. It is like the stinking Tower of Sauron over here. It is enormous.
Disc or digital?
I got the disc one.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah,
great.
Which I'm also surprised with, but now I'm kind of like, I don't know. I think discs are going away.
They'd like them to go away. I'd like them to stay, but yeah.
They need to get. I mean, they got to give a bigger hard drive, obviously. But I guess that's another story. But no, dude, I'm happy with it, man. I think it's cool. I really actually what I ended up doing is I sold my PS4 Pro to a friend because I realized I didn't need it anymore. I'm like, I actually don't need this, and it was good to offload that.
Sure.
And be like, I don't have to now switch over and put it in the PS4 game. I can just do everything from one console.
Right.
As far as like the Xbox goes, again, I have not having played it, dude. I to me the only real big appeal for that is the library that you can get if you get the Xbox Game Pass.
Right.
Because I feel like if somebody has not played any Xbox games, or they're just like, if you're buying it for a kid or something like that, and you don't want to have to go out and spend however much money.
No, it's a great deal. It is. I mean, especially because now they have EA in there too. So which
I had no idea until recently, and I started playing on it. But the fact that I have like a pretty competent gaming PC, I pretty much have no reason to have the Xbox. I'm just like,
it'll be
until
interesting
they come
to
out
see what Microsoft does with Bethesda, though, right? Like, that's a major purchase that was surprising to me, and
it is. I still don't know what they're planning on doing because they said that they weren't going to be exclusive. They were like, well, we're not sure if we're going to be exclusive or not. Plus, Bethesda did not have a great console generation last year. Like the whole Fallout 76 thing was like a travesty for them,
right?
And so they need to kind of. I mean, it wasn't quite as bad as like what's going on with Cyberpunk right now. Like,
you don't want to buy Skyrim for the 17th time like everybody else.
My favorite meme of that is when it's the one of the lady who's like looking at a pregnancy test and it has Skyrim on there. It's just like,
it's so true. So last question, and then I'm going to wrap it up. And this is just curious. Have you ever heard of the NBA Elite thing on PlayStation? It's like the rarest game ever, basically. Electronic Arts was making a basketball game to compete, against 2K. And they created this NBA Elite, and there was a demo for it. And they had to fine tune some things, but they had already player licenses. They had, as far as I understand it, they had a box game, and but they had some bugs, and so they had some more work to do on it to get rid of the bugs. But 2K had dropped their NBA game by that point, and it was like so amazing, like it was like the best NBA basketball game ever, basically, that Electronic Arts scrubbed releasing NBA Elite. but apparently there are some box copies out there, and
Really?
it's worth a fortune. Yeah, and the demo itself, I mean, there are people out there that have hacked it onto PlayStations, but I was just curious if you ever heard of it since you played NBA 2K.
I have heard of it because I remember. So NBA, the EA sports brand, the NBA sports brand was NBA Live. That was like that was everything. But then NBA Live really started to fall back compared to NBA 2K. NBA 2K was leaps and bounds better than it. So then they took like a year off to basically do exactly what we were talking about. Like, we're going to rebrand this and relaunch this. Yeah. So imagine spending, a year or two away from it. Like, here it is. And it's like, never mind.
Right. That's really what they did. They probably spent a fortune, and they were just like, yeah, this is embarrassing. We're just going to just not even, just burn them all. Burn all the cards. Burn all the discs.
It's buried somewhere with ET. Yeah, I didn't even know they made, but I did not know they made physical copies of it. In fact,
apparently, I can't say because I haven't seen one, but I've heard that there are. Yeah.
So there you go, man. There's your quest. You gotta,
because people sell them, and they're maybe it's the demo that's on a disc. I don't know. But that they are expensive. Like, it is worth a fortune.
Jolly, dude. Be careful about that.
Yeah, well, I don't collect games. I just collect the consoles. So, but eventually,
I have a rare game.
See me on video trying to turn them on and blowing out my light sockets from game consoles that weren't meant to last 60 years and shit.
You'll probably be hugely successful because it's just that kind of thing that everybody wants to watch and they don't know it yet.
Someone's going to steal my idea. All right, listen, Jedi, it's been awesome talking to you and catching up again. Man. I look forward to doing your show on Wednesday. Again, it's Coin a Geek, right? So I'll be on that show on Wednesday on video. What are we doing? Twitch?
We'll
pre-recording it and then editing it beforehand. Or what is the are people going to?
We'll do it live. We'll do it live on Twitch, and then I can send you the link for that if you want. But we'll do it live, and I'll just ask you some questions. We'll keep it real.
Yeah, sure.
Real casual.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you about history of games and your involvement and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it'll be fun.
Awesome. Again, thanks for being on the show, everybody. Coin a Geek and Coin a Geek Gaming on Twitch. And Jedi, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Don, I know you probably fell asleep, but thanks for hanging out.
Hey, welcome to the show, everybody.
It's really good to catch up with you guys. It's nice to hear your voices. So I hope you all do well.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
See you later.
See you. Good night.